The forest is silent, except for the drip of water from giant ferns towering overhead. Mist rolls across the swamp floor, thick and heavy, clinging to everything it touches. The air smells of wet earth and decay. Somewhere in the darkness, something moves. This is not a forest you would recognize. The trees are not trees at all, but massive club mosses stretching 30 meters into the sky. Their bark is rough and covered in diamond-shaped scars. Dragonflies the size of hawks dart between the trunks, their wings beating with a sound like distant thunder. The ground is soft, almost spongy, covered in layers of rotting vegetation that have been piling up for millions of years. In a small clearing, an amphibian emerges from a pool of murky water. It looks something like a salamander, but larger, with a body as thick as a man's leg. Its skin is slick and mottled, perfect camouflage against the muddy banks. It drags itself onto land with awkward, splayed limbs, breathing heavily. This creature has just evolved the ability to walk on land, and it shows. Every movement is clumsy, uncertain. The amphibian pauses. Its primitive eyes scan the clearing. Something feels wrong. From beneath a fallen log, two shapes emerge from the shadow. They are curved, like blades, each one longer than a human hand. They rise slowly, deliberately. Then more of the creature reveals itself. A segmented body, dark and armored, slides into view. 8 legs carry it forward with mechanical precision, and at the end of its body, curving up and over its back, is a tail tipped with a stinger the size of a railroad spike. The amphibian sees it too late. It tries to turn, to scramble back toward the water, but the creature is faster. It lunges forward, those massive claws snapping shut around the amphibian's body. The tail arcs overhead in a blur of motion. The stinger drives down, punching through skin and muscle. The amphibian convulses once, twice, then goes still. This is Pulmonoscorpius, the nightmare scorpion. And 300 million years ago, it was one of the most terrifying predators on Earth. To understand Pulmonoscorpius, you have to understand the world it lived in. The Carboniferous period, roughly 359 to 299 million years ago, was a time like no other in Earth's history. It was a time when the rules of biology were different, when size limits we take for granted today simply didn't exist. The key to everything was oxygen. Today, the air you breathe is about 21% oxygen. But during the Carboniferous, oxygen levels soared to nearly 35%. That might not sound like a huge difference, but it changed everything. Plants were the cause. The Carboniferous gets its name from the massive coal deposits formed during this time, and those coal deposits came from forests. Endless forests of giant club mosses, horsetails, and early tree ferns that covered the low-lying swamps and river deltas. These plants were pulling carbon dioxide out of the air and pumping oxygen back in at an incredible rate. But here's the thing. Nothing had evolved to break them down yet. When these giants died and fell into the swamps, they just stayed there. The bacteria and fungi that decompose wood today hadn't evolved the right tools to handle this new type of plant tissue. So the dead trees piled up, layer after layer, eventually turning into the coal seams we mine today. All that plant growth meant one thing: more oxygen, and lots of it. And when oxygen levels rise, arthropods can grow. Insects and their relatives don't breathe like we do. They don't have lungs that actively pump air through their bodies. Instead, they rely on a network of tiny tubes called tracheae that carry oxygen directly to their tissues. It's a passive system, and it works great, until you get big. The bigger you are, the harder it is for oxygen to reach the cells deep inside your body. But flood the atmosphere with extra oxygen, and suddenly those size limits disappear. The result was a world of giants. Meganeura, a dragonfly with a wingspan of over 70 centimeters, patrolled the skies like a prehistoric fighter jet. Arthropleura, a millipede longer than a grown man, crawled through the leaf litter, feeding on decaying plants. And in the shadows of the swamp forests, scorpions grew to sizes that would give you nightmares. The landscape itself was alien. Vast swamps stretched for thousands of kilometers, broken only by shallow seas and river systems. The equator was hot and humid, with year-round rainfall creating conditions perfect for plant growth. But venture away from the equator, and the climate became more seasonal, wet periods alternating with dry spells that turned parts of the swamps into mudflats. Life was thriving on land, but it was still finding its footing. The first reptiles had just appeared, tiny lizard-like creatures that could lay eggs with waterproof shells. But they were rare, still experimental. The dominant land animals were amphibians, some small and salamander-like, others huge and crocodile-like, lurking in the water waiting for prey. This was the world Pulmonoscorpius ruled, a world where stepping into the wrong shadow could be your last mistake. Pulmonoscorpius kirktonensis is known from fossils discovered in Scotland, preserved in rocks from the early Carboniferous, about 340 million years ago. And when paleontologists first reconstructed its size, they realized they were looking at something extraordinary. This scorpion could reach lengths of up to 70 centimeters. That's nearly 2.5 feet long, making it one of the largest scorpions ever to exist. To put that in perspective, imagine a scorpion the length of your arm, from shoulder to fingertips. But size alone doesn't make you a nightmare. It's what you do with that size that matters. The body of Pulmonoscorpius was built like a tank. Its exoskeleton was thick and heavily armored, made of chitin reinforced with proteins and minerals. This wasn't just protection, it was a weapon platform. The exoskeleton provided anchor points for powerful muscles, giving the scorpion strength far beyond what you'd expect from its size. The pedipalps, the large pincer-like claws at the front, were massive. Each claw was strong enough to crush bone, to hold struggling prey while the scorpion positioned itself for the kill. The edges of the claws were lined with sensory hairs, detecting the slightest movement, the faintest vibration. Once those claws closed around you, escape was nearly impossible. Behind the pedipalps were 8 walking legs, each tipped with sharp claws for gripping uneven terrain. Pulmonoscorpius could move quickly when it needed to, scuttling across mud and leaf litter with surprising speed. But it was also patient. It could wait, motionless, for hours, conserving energy until the perfect moment to strike. The tail, or metasoma, was the scorpion's ultimate weapon. 5 segments, each armored and flexible, allowing the tail to curl in almost any direction. At the tip was the telson, the bulb containing the venom gland and the stinger itself. We don't know exactly what Pulmonoscorpius venom did. Soft tissues like venom glands rarely fossilize. But we can make educated guesses based on modern scorpions and the prey available in the Carboniferous. The venom likely contained a mix of neurotoxins and enzymes, designed to paralyze prey quickly and begin breaking down tissue for easier digestion. A strike from that stinger would have been devastating. Fast, precise, and deadly. The eyes of Pulmonoscorpius were arranged in a pattern still seen in scorpions today, a pair of large median eyes on top of the head and several smaller lateral eyes along the sides. The median eyes detected movement and changes in light, while the lateral eyes provided a wider field of view. Scorpions aren't known for great vision, but they don't need to be. They hunt primarily by sensing vibrations through the ground and air. Along the underside of the body were the book lungs, the respiratory organs that give Pulmonoscorpius its name. Pulmonoscorpius means breathing scorpion, and these structures were key to its success on land. Book lungs are stacks of thin, blood-filled plates exposed to air, allowing gas exchange without the need for tracheae. They're more efficient than the breathing systems of insects, and they allowed scorpions to maintain activity levels even at large sizes. This was a predator designed by millions of years of evolution. Every part of its body served a purpose: to detect, to capture, to kill. Our understanding of Pulmonoscorpius comes from a remarkable fossil site in Scotland, the East Kirkton Limestone. This site, discovered in the 20th century, preserves a moment in time from about 340 million years ago. It was once a freshwater lake surrounded by volcanic hills, and the conditions were perfect for fossilization. The rocks here have yielded some of the most complete early Carboniferous fossils ever found. Amphibians, early reptiles, fish, plants, and arthropods, including scorpions. The first Pulmonoscorpius fossils were described in the 1990s, and they caused quite a stir. Here was a scorpion of enormous size, with anatomy clearly adapted for life on land. The fossils show remarkable detail: the segmented body, the shape of the claws, even the structure of the book lungs. But fossils can only tell us so much. We know Pulmonoscorpius was large, that it had powerful claws and a venomous sting. We know it lived in swampy environments alongside early tetrapods and giant insects. But there's a lot we don't know. We don't know the exact composition of its venom. We don't know how fast it could move or how long it lived. We don't know if it was social or solitary, though modern scorpions are generally solitary, and Pulmonoscorpius likely was too. We don't know if it cared for its young, as some modern scorpions do, carrying babies on its back for protection. We don't even know its coloration. Fossils preserve structure, not color. Pulmonoscorpius could have been dark brown or black, perfect camouflage for a forest floor. Or it could have been lighter, blending in with sandy riverbanks. We simply don't know. What we do know is that scorpions as a group are ancient. They first appeared in the Silurian period, over 430 million years ago, as marine animals. By the time of Pulmonoscorpius, they had been on land for tens of millions of years, and they had perfected the art of terrestrial predation. The fossil record shows other large scorpions from around the same time period, suggesting that gigantism wasn't unique to Pulmonoscorpius. The high oxygen levels of the Carboniferous created opportunities, and scorpions took full advantage. Paleontologists continue to study these fossils, using modern technology to extract new information. CT scans can reveal internal structures without damaging the fossil. Comparisons with modern scorpions help us understand behavior and ecology. Each new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle, but some questions may never be answered. The fossil record is incomplete by nature. It preserves only a tiny fraction of the organisms that once lived. For every Pulmonoscorpius we find, thousands lived and died without leaving a trace. Still, what we have is enough to paint a picture of a world stranger and more dangerous than most people imagine. Pulmonoscorpius and the other giants of the Carboniferous didn't last forever. By the end of the period, around 299 million years ago, the world was changing and not in their favor. The key, once again, was oxygen. The same atmospheric conditions that allowed arthropods to reach enormous sizes began to shift. Oxygen levels started to decline, dropping back toward the 20% range we see today. The reasons were complex. Changes in plant communities, the evolution of fungi and bacteria that could finally decompose wood efficiently, shifts in ocean chemistry. But the result was the same. The age of giants was coming to an end. As oxygen levels fell, large arthropods faced a crisis. Their passive breathing systems, so effective in an oxygen-rich atmosphere, became a liability. They couldn't get enough oxygen to sustain their massive bodies. Smaller individuals had an advantage. They could maintain activity levels even as oxygen declined. Natural selection favored smaller sizes, generation by generation. But oxygen wasn't the only factor. The climate was changing too. The Carboniferous ended with a period of intense glaciation. Ice sheets spread across the southern supercontinent of Gondwana, locking up water and causing sea levels to drop. The vast tropical swamps that had covered so much of the planet began to dry out. Forests died back. Rivers changed course. The lush, humid environment that had supported the giant arthropods was disappearing. For creatures like Pulmonoscorpius, adapted to warm, wet swamps, this was catastrophic. Their habitats were shrinking, fragmenting, disappearing entirely in some regions. Food became scarce as the ecosystems they depended on collapsed. The amphibians they preyed on were struggling too. Many early tetrapod groups went extinct during this transition. The survivors were those that could adapt to drier conditions, that could venture farther from water. Pulmonoscorpius, specialized for its environment, couldn't adapt quickly enough. The fossil record shows that large scorpions became rare and then vanished entirely. They were replaced by smaller species, better suited to the new world that was emerging. The Permian period that followed was drier, more seasonal, with greater temperature extremes. This was a world of deserts and scrublands, of early reptiles diversifying and taking over the land. Scorpions still existed, but they were smaller, living in cracks and crevices, hunting insects and small vertebrates. The age of giants was over, but the story of scorpions was far from finished. Today, there are over 2,500 species of scorpions living on every continent except Antarctica. They range in size from just over a centimeter to over 20 centimeters, and they occupy nearly every terrestrial habitat imaginable: deserts, forests, grasslands, caves, mountains. They are living fossils in the truest sense. The basic body plan of a modern scorpion is almost identical to that of Pulmonoscorpius. The 8 legs, the pedipalps, the segmented tail with its venomous sting. These features have remained essentially unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. Why? Because the design works. Scorpions are ambush predators, patient and efficient. Their armor protects them from most threats. Their venom allows them to subdue prey much larger than themselves. Their ability to survive on very little food, to withstand extreme temperatures, to live in environments too harsh for most other animals. These traits have made them one of the most successful arthropod groups in history. When you see a scorpion today, you're looking at a creature whose ancestors watched the rise and fall of the dinosaurs, survived multiple mass extinctions, and adapted to changes in climate, oxygen levels, and ecosystems that would have doomed less resilient animals. Pulmonoscorpius itself is gone, along with all the other giants of the Carboniferous, but its descendants remain. The scorpion hiding under a rock in the Arizona desert, the one lurking in the African savanna, the one scuttling through the jungles of Southeast Asia. They all carry the genetic legacy of that ancient nightmare, adapted and refined by countless generations. Modern scorpions may be smaller, but they're no less deadly within their ecological niches. Their venom has evolved into a complex cocktail of toxins, fine-tuned to affect the specific nervous systems of their prey. Some species have venom potent enough to kill humans, others are harmless, but all of them are survivors. Scientists continue to study scorpions, not just as fossils, but as living animals. Their venom is being researched for potential medical applications: pain relievers, anti-cancer agents, antimicrobial compounds. Their fluorescence under ultraviolet light, caused by compounds in their exoskeleton, is still not fully understood. Their ability to survive radiation doses that would kill most other animals makes them subjects of interest for space exploration research. In a way, Pulmonoscorpius never truly died. It lives on in every scorpion alive today, in the DNA passed down through millions of years, in the body plan that evolution deemed too perfect to change. The Carboniferous forest is gone now, buried under miles of rock and time. The giant club mosses are coal. The dragonflies are fossils. The amphibians that dragged themselves onto land gave rise to all terrestrial vertebrates, including us. But somewhere in the fossil record, preserved in stone, Pulmonoscorpius waits. A reminder of a time when scorpions grew as large as house cats, when stepping into the wrong shadow could be fatal, when the air was so rich with oxygen that giants walked, crawled, and flew across a planet we wouldn't recognize. It was a nightmare made real. A predator perfectly adapted to its world, ruling the swamps with claws and venom, feared by everything that lived alongside it. And for a brief moment in Earth's history, it was the king of its domain. The nightmare scorpion, Pulmonoscorpius, terror of the Carboniferous.